So great. So Glennis, okay, let's going to share a screen. Glennis, you want to start off with um, a discussion?
Well, we really wanted to go where we thought everybody'd want to go. And I'm a, I'm big on best practices. But a lot of people don't really even know where best practices comes from or what is a best practice or why we have them. And so we're going to talk about that later if people are interested, because I want to go over what's the best practices for recovery housing. And NAR has the standards, as you all know. Um, and then SAMHSA has set out 10 best practices for recovery housing. But then when Catherine and I started talking, I'm like, let's just go with lessons learned because there's so many things, simple things that we can pass on to one another to make our lives so much easier and the lives of the people that come into recovery housing and the cost that we spend on things that we could probably be saving money on. So and then you guys can share with us because I want it to be open. So we're all kind of talking together and we're all learning instead of us just talking to you, and telling you what our lessons are. Have you guys share some of your lessons as well. So we came up with, I really, again, I just want to stress, if you're all interested, we could go over the 10 best practices in the next section that we have. And I think they're important those of you who are on this, and you can do this in your messages to us, how many of you um what I want to say, how many of you are well aware of what best practices are in general and where they come from? If you guys could just write that in your thing so we know. And it's okay not to know. But it would help us with a starting place when it comes to best practices. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll move on with the best practices. Um, we had Catherine made a list of her best practices. I can't see it all. Can you guys?
Kind of cut off, Kayla.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
hold
yeah,
on.
we were going to call it best practice, but NAR of course has their best practice and SAM's best practice, so we didn't want to confuse anybody. So as operators, um, current and past operators, there's lessons you've learned over the years that there's a better way to do that, that might save some money, and to have new people come on board and see things from the start, like, oh, I shouldn't put all new carpeting in my home. What's better than carpeting? Just it could save some money. So these are just some bullet points that we put up just to kind of help start a conversation
That's
on
one of the,
things.
and that's one of the things that when we come in that really I've found a lot is carpeting gets so dirty, that I mean, it's one of the first things that, because it's unhealthy. And a lot of times we get these houses and they already got carpeting, so we leave it until we have to get rid of it. And we put it, I mean, just saying that's how we had to do it. We didn't, I can remember finding furniture on the side of the street and picking it up in my truck. You know what I mean? We do what we can when we first, this labor of love that we venture into in the beginning and things change, but there's a lot of things. I kept carpet way longer than I needed to because I never, once I put a floor in, I never had to put another floor in. So that's a good one, I think. And then Catherine has one about keys that I think I ended up doing myself. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Catherine?
Yeah, some operators still want to use keys. They have a system where they give everybody that's in all their homes a key so they can get in and out. But then when they have to exit the person, they got it. Did I get the only key back, or did they make copies? I got to change the lock, for the home. Everybody else has to get a different key. The expense of that and the hassle is huge. But using a key code pad where every staff person or employee has the same code for every house, every individual that lives in the home has their own code versus giving one code for everybody to use, because then you have the same situation when one person has to leave, is exited from the home. Then you got to change the code, and then everybody else's code changes, and you got to, are they all at work? How are you going to get a hold of them before they get home? So it seems like lessons learned, best practice would be get a key code pad, give everybody their own code, which is typically like their last 4 digits of their social security number, which you already have on your paperwork. When that person leaves, you remove their code. It doesn't affect anybody else. It's so much simpler. You can get them pretty cheap, or you can spend like up to $300. I heard there was an operator that spent $300 per lock. So they had one on the front door of each home, and what it was a Bluetooth code. So everybody had their own code that they would punch in. But if somebody was removed from the home, this operator could be 50 miles away and remove that code from her phone, and wouldn't have to be there on site to do it. So it allowed her that, or if a recovery coach showed up and their individual that they're meeting with isn't answering the phone, or answering the door, rather, the operator could let that person in the home. So that was something different, but there was only one operator, I think, that was using that, and that's a pricey one. But having a keypad, keyless entry versus giving everybody a key is the least expensive route to go and least hassle. Do you
Like
have any
Home
questions
Depot
or comments on that?
looks like Home Depot have them for about 150 bucks.
You can get them cheaper than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but there's some that only allow 6 keyless entries, and then some allow, numerous. So you want to see which one you're getting, because if you got a 10-bed home, for example, you want one that's going to be able to hold at least 10. And I went around with an operator the other day. He had this big old case it was just full of keys, because we had to go to each site, and he had a separate key for each door. And it's just like, you know what? There's a better way.
So here's my lesson learned with that, you guys. So we were using keys, and we found out that one of the guys that was discharged, where we thought that we had gotten his key, he was coming back in the house every other day while people were working and taking our groceries. And then
No, they don't do that.
oh God, when they got caught, they wanted me to press charges on him because one of our clients called the police when they caught him in there taking the food. And I didn't want to press charges on the guy. I just didn't want to do that. And I thought, man, I don't want to be in this spot again. And that's when I got I got the locks where you could just put in your own code and get in, because I thought, oh geez, I don't want to be put in that position because I don't want to turn anybody in for anything, you know what I mean? So, but they will do that. They will come back and I mean, why wouldn't they? If they need food, they need food. But
We
so
had an individual customer.
that was one of my lessons learned. I'm like, okay, somebody had told me I should have done this a while ago and I didn't, so I'm going to do it now, and I've had them ever since. So,
We had a situation in Touchstone. Somebody was removed from the home. They made a copy of a key, and they came in that night and took the TV out of the living room.
yep, yeah. How
And
many
some of the residents saw him and called the police as he was heading out the door, but no, it's gone. It's
How
gone.
many
Yeah,
you
I was reading some of the comments here, and yeah, I definitely, and kind of to tie some things together along with what I'm reading in the comments. Yeah, you definitely don't need a $300 one,
No,
but
Right.
I do get mine at for $150,
Yeah.
and it is important to get a quality name brand
Mhm.
just due to the high wear and tear and the battery life.
yeah,
And I always get Schlags, and I believe those at the 150 mark they can hold 19 codes. So you
nice.
do get a lot of flexibility even with some of the larger bed capacity
Mhm.
places.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've used them for many years and find that they are good. They still don't last forever, but
Yeah.
you should at least get 5 years of life out of it, even at $150. And
Yeah.
it's definitely worth every penny for the sake of
Yeah.
ease of use.
Yeah.
As far as best practices, I mean, wow, this is a very nice list. I always thought I was so smart because I've already learned these lesson learned. But some of the ones that I'm currently working on is I always believe in standardizing things because it helps you to it helps the people that work with you, like your go-to, your house managers, to know how's this company run. So standardizing practices of how each job functions and how it's supposed to be done helps with avoiding loose ends and things falling through the cracks, because sometimes you always have a champion manager at one place and then you wonder why another location can't be ran as well. It's because as providers or managers, we're not creating standard practices. And one other thing that I'm working on right now is that I find is falling through the cracks is how do you make sure that a new bed, a new refrigerator spot, a new dry food cover area is ready for the next person to move in versus the new person coming in with a bad first impression because the fridge isn't cleaned out. There's all kinds of crap underneath the bed. And so that's one that I'm going to be working on for my best practices is how do I make sure that I always have a nice, clean, welcoming place for that next person coming in.
Well, that
Right.
takes us, that's a good one. And that takes us back up to the first bullet that I missed. It's about your chore list. And I can't tell you the number of places we've been to where we're like, they have a chore list up there, but people aren't really doing the chores.
Mhm.
So that's the key is to getting people to do their chores. And what happens if they don't do it? We use consequences. We use consequences at Home and Vision, and it would be something as little, as they won't be able to go with their next outing, or it could be they had to do an extra chore in the house, or it could be something because it's not, I mean, we got to make the good point that we're doing it for them. I don't know, I was a single mother with 2 kids. I went into recovery housing um in 1996 and I had or I'm saying 1990 and I had a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. I didn't know how to put dinner on the table at 5 o'clock for my kids. I didn't know. My timing was off, and I didn't know to get them in the bed by 6 or get them in the bath by 6. I mean, I learned all that stuff. But if we don't push to help them learn, then that's going to reflect on the house. That's going to reflect on their recovery, and that's going to reflect on their future. We have to do it for them. And it's not, we don't got to look at what we're doing or, God, I hate to do that to them or give them, no, it helps them. It builds the expectation. And if you have a clean place that they walk into, they're going to keep it clean. It's almost like, let me put it to you in drug ways. I'm not going to walk into a house smoking crack when everybody's in there smoking weed. You know, you know what I mean? I'm just not. So, but I will, if I walk into a clean house, I'm going to keep a clean house. So it's if you keep it that way and you have the people in recovery keeping that house the way it should be, and they're being fined or they're being consequenced if they don't, chances are your house is going to stay a lot cleaner. Will it stay 100% clean? No, it will not.
That's
But
why there's daily chore lists.
that's what your house manager is for, is to make sure they're checking off that list every day to make sure that those chores are being done. That's the managers.
It's that
Now,
healthy culture, building that
yes,
healthy culture within the home that's conducive to recovery. And, first rule of the day, you make your bed. That seemed to be that most people hated that rule. I'm not 5. Why do I have to make my bed? But at the end of the day, when things have all gone bad and they come home, nothing worked out for them, they came home to a well-made bed. I did this. It showed them
yeah.
they completed a task. I did this for
Well,
myself.
see,
You
she's
know,
nicer than me because if I walked into a bedroom and they had made the bed, I pulled everything off and put it on the floor and told them they had to wash it and make their bed when they
uh,
because
well,
I'm not
that's
the
not as bad
mother.
as what I did.
I'm not,
I
yeah,
would take the bedding and I would put it over their pillow. And I'd say, tell so and so to call me when he came home. And he'd call me, what'd you do to my bed? And I'd be like, do you like your bed? Yeah. Do you want to keep your bed? The next time I come in and I see you didn't make your bed, I'm just going to tell you to pack your stuff and go. Does that make sense? Yep. There's a lot of people that would love to have that bed and they will make that bed every day. And
however,
if I have to come in again and that bed isn't made, then I remove that person. And that sends a really strong lesson to everybody in the home, like, wow, every chore matters. I guess I better make my bed. You know, they can't pick and choose what they want to follow.
however, we do all that with love,
I
right?
of course
Yes, we can do all that with love.
I put a
And
little heart on their pillow
yeah,
and everything when I
yes, yes. I mean, I learned a
Science
long time
behind it.
ago, it's not what we say, it's how we say it. And I
Right.
think every provider and every staff person, every peer recovery coach, anybody who's working with this population, as of myself, being the population and being somebody who worked with them, it's not what I say, it's how I say it. It's not what they say to me, it's how they say it to me. So, I mean, I live by that today, and I think that they deserve us to live by that, so but that's one way to take care of the house. I found that to be very helpful in keeping a consistent expectation of chores at any given time.
Kim put in there, do residents provide their own bedding or do you typically provide it? What I did as a past operator, because that was a big money pit right there. So
Yep.
you go to like Walmart or something, or go to garage sales, you get bedding, make sure there's bedding in the home, but then people leave and they take it.
Yep.
So what we did is we changed it. And so part of our intake process to the home, one of my screening was, bring whatever you need to be comfortable in a twin size bed. So a sheet, a blanket, comforter, and pillow. 99% of the time they have that stuff already. They can get it and they come in with it. And if they leave it behind, that's on them. If they take it with them. That was huge. And those that don't have those resources, you need to provide that. If you have an individual that comes to your home, a lot of times they have nothing, you need to make sure that they have the appropriate bedding for that bed, blanket, comforter, pillow, whatever they need to be comfortable on that bed. There's some places that actually will charge like a deposit, like a recovery deposit, they'll call it. And then when they leave the place clean and they leave the bedding behind or whatever, then they can get their recovery deposit back. I don't know if not everybody does that, but anybody else have any ideas about that? Or what do you do regarding bedding for people?
I remember at one point, very early on in figuring that out, I used to buy all fluorescent pink. At that time, I had men's houses. It still didn't work. All my stuff still got stolen.
Yeah, they gave it to the
So
girlfriend
don't
or
do
their
that
mother.
idea.
Well, how do you like the idea when they take the curtains down and they hang the sheets and the blankets up on the windows? Like, come on, we've all experienced that, have we not?
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed.
I'm like, why? Why? I have all matching curtains. I have all bedding, all matching bedding. Why? Why do you do this? It's crazy to me.
That's a great subject to talk about next. Window treatments in the bedrooms and bathrooms,
Mhm.
and going all over the state and seeing different recovery homes. I can't tell you how many times I walk in. Most of the recovery homes have mini blinds. And then they complain because they got to replace them all the time. At least every 6 months to a year, they got to replace them because they're broken. They're peeking through the window, or the light the heat kind of disintegrates them after a while if they're the cheaper ones. And I go into a place and they'll have a blanket nailed to the wall to cover out the light, so it looks like a homeless shelter. So what's the best idea? What's the best practice? And it seems like getting away from the mini blinds, you have to have a window treatment so they have privacy, but have curtains. Invest in darker curtains so if they can open them and get light, they can close them and it'll help, keep the light out if they work third shift, for example. But they're going to last you. They're going to last. They don't steal them, right? But they're not going to break like the mini blinds. So same thing with like bathrooms. You don't have to have curtains. You don't have to have mini blinds in a bathroom, but they do have to have some sort of privacy on the window. So something for a bathroom that would be good would be the window film. The window films give privacy. Then you don't have to worry about replacing, you don't have to have curtains in there. You don't have to worry about replacing mini blinds because they're breaking. So they're hassle free. It's cheap. So again, just a couple ideas of things you can do that can help save money in the long run. Anyone have any other ideas? So what you do?
Yeah, if I expand on that, one of the things I've learned is there's so much temptation to think, because it's not my house, because I know that people are going to tear it up, I'll just buy the cheapest solution. Buying and and at first it seems like instant gratification. Yeah, I could get this for $10 instead of paying the $20. But I encourage people to think bigger picture and use their business brains a little bit more. And sometimes it's better to spend the $30 instead of the $10 if you know that it's going to last you 10 times longer. Because in the long run, all those small little things accumulate to a lot of savings by spending medium money for a long-term solution versus nickel and diming yourselves to death. So even the curtains, I started doing the curtains instead of blinds a while ago. But then what I did do is I bought the thinner curtain rod, and then what that did is they end up breaking every year.
Yeah.
So now, yes, I buy curtains, but I also buy the heavier duty curtain rod because that's going to last so much longer. And there's endless examples of that will, in the long run, you will lower your maintenance costs just by
Yeah.
spending the money that, buying what you really want
Yeah.
because you get what you pay for.
Then your issue then begins, they have to be washed on a regular basis. So
Yeah.
that has to be part of the chore list.
Well, that's actually listed on the MAR cleaning list, and that MAR
Mhm.
cleaning list that every home is supposed to have posted in your home. That MAR cleaning list that was created a couple years ago is for the operator. It does not
Right.
take place in the chore list, but that does have on there weekly
Yeah.
things that the operator should make sure is taken care of, monthly, annual. And yeah, taking the curtains down and making sure they're washed, power washing the outside of your home, stuff like that. So that
One
kind
of,
of stuff is on there as well.
One that
yeah,
doesn't have that is available on our website all the time. So you can always download that. If you need a new copy of it, you can always go and print and download that. So
one of the other things is the food dates. I think I was at a house not too long ago, couple of months ago or so, and the dates were really bad on some of the food that was in the basement that was stored. And I recommend that you add that to the kitchen chore list. So that every time they do the kitchen chore, they go down or they'll check all of your dates too at the same time. So you never have outdated stuff on there because it's very common to have outdated food. And that really helps to eliminate that problem.
That happens a lot in nonprofits where they have access to the food pantries and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and we see that a lot and just like, what's your system to make sure that everything is rotated and you get rid of the expired stuff. And there's places that things are getting ready to expire because there's always the veggies is always left behind, right? Or the
Mhm.
beans or whatever. They make a big old pot of veggie soup for their house meeting and they have like a family style meal and they're using up the food, which is great. But would I use personally, would I throw away an expired can of veggies because the date's expired? No. But when you're an operator and you have expired things in your home, it's somebody got sick. Maybe it wasn't that got them sick, but what if? Well, I got sick because you only had expired food in your pantry. I mean, people don't need an excuse to sue. So that's just
Well,
another liability, another thing that you can do to help yourself stay on top of things and ensure that um, food isn't expired in your home. So I
and
like the idea of once a week, go through, have somebody go through to make sure things are being rotated.
And we know that they're looking for a reason to leave us anyway. So that's, they will find a reason and it might be that one. So Kim, I want to just make note that Kim West stated that Lowe's donated their keyless locks. So I just want to put that out there that
Wow.
yeah, and that's a good point, Kim, because Home Depot redid our whole they surfaced our parking lot, not a whole overdo, but a group of them came out and did the asphalt and filled all of our holes and everything for us for free. So that is a good resource, Lowe's and Home Depot for things like that.
Kim, could you unmute yourself and share what you did to find that resource?
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Kim.
Yes, with me being a new operator and low on funds,
Mhm.
I just started Googling or just looking for in the community who could help out. So
Yeah.
I needed like floodlights and when Catherine came, she suggested the keyless locks to me, right? So that was one of the things that I had on my to-do list. So anyway, I just called them and I went there too. First I emailed them, but I think I was emailing the wrong place because they got like corporate and then they have local. So when I emailed them, they told me to go to the store because the corporate was more like habitat, building the homes or something. So when I went to the store and I just asked for the general manager and told them what I was looking for, and they donated 3 locks
That's
for the
awesome.
each doors. That was Lowe's, and then Home Depot donated the floodlights and the lights, the
That is so
bulbs.
cool.
Yeah,
I
it
really
was. I
like
was
that.
shocked and I was happy. But
I had never heard that before, Kim. I'm so glad you shared that but you know what? It's a good lesson learned. If you don't
yeah,
ask,
yeah,
what are they
yeah.
going to say? The
I
worst
was
they're going to
happy.
say is no. So ask. Awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else have a situation like that where you just reached out to someone in the community and they helped out?
Them
One of the
thoughts.
things,
Can I just make a point to what Kim was talking about being a new recovery house and how funds are really are low. That is kind of what I was talking about a little while ago, how I used to go on the side of the road or I'd go to these places and I'd get couches and I'd get. And we can't do that now because of bed bugs are so bad.
Right.
We used to be able to do that and it would be okay. And now we're just really limited to what we can do. So the other thing that I might put on is we have right now opening up another recovery house in Jackson, the place that I used to work. Now what I've learned from them is that we can go on Amazon and put a wish list for a recovery home on there.
I've
And
done that.
did you
Yeah.
do that? Was it
Yes.
successful?
Not so much, but I did have a few donations, like
Okay.
towels and
Yep. Yep.
sheets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I was thinking about actually doing another one, but
Yeah. I mean,
because it is successful for a lot of people.
yeah, it is. And I think that, if you continue to do it, then I think that your name becomes a little bit more known on there and people are there to like work with one person. So I would just recommend that too. It's really hard for us to, um, or we get a couch from like, I would get one from my mother, you know what I mean? And I know that one's okay. You know what I mean? So, I mean,
Right.
we just got to be very careful about what we take into the houses too nowadays. It used to be a lot easier than it is now. But
even going to your
Facebook,
local churches as well,
yes, and
you know?
Facebook is another thing. You get on there to your friends and say, I need this or that or the next thing. And I mean, people will donate, but in the midst of running these programs and we're working with the clients all day and we're putting out fires and it's crisis intervention most of the time, it's hard to do all the other stuff that you need to do. So um and it's trial
Another
and
thing
error.
that not to cut you off, another thing that I had success with was like on Marketplace.
Yes,
When they know
yes.
that, and I think somebody mentioned this last week about the estate sales, but when they know that you do have a recovery home and you're doing something for the good, they'll donate a lot of the things like that too, like dresses I've gotten. once I told them what I was doing it for, instead of charging me, they was like, oh, you could just have it.
It's a great idea. Yeah, it's a great idea for sure.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, because it's a write-off for them, right? So
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I want to
One
get
thing
back
that
on
can,
what should
yeah,
operators provide? What kind of things should an operator provide to a new individual that comes in the home? You know, should be bedding. You want to make sure everybody has bedding. If they don't have their own, make sure they have a pillow and adequate bedding to keep themselves warm. Um, what I used to do, the practice that we did, if somebody new was coming, we'd just put their bedding on the bed and we'd say, well, here's your bed. Go ahead and make your bed. And when you're done, I'll, review the rules with you and stuff, orientate you to the home. But what I've seen go into other homes throughout the state, there's operators that they know an individual is coming to their home. They show them, this is your bed, and the bedding is already on there. The bed is made with a pillow. They have a shower caddy with a little shampoo and toothbrush and toothpaste and stuff. A lot of times they come in with a shirt on their back. What a perfect way to welcome somebody to their home. And this is how, moving forward every day, this is how we want you to make your bed too, versus here's your bedding, go do it yourself. And I think that's amazing. If I was running homes again, which I won't, that would be a practice that I would do, because I think that's great. Anybody
You go to the
else
dollar
do anything
store
like
and
that?
get
The
those
shower
things.
caddies and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody do anything like that? What do you do to help make people feel welcome when they first come to your home?
So we have our beds made when they come in, so they're all set to go. And then during our kind of welcoming, we have the shower caddies, and then we have kind of the hygiene products they might need. So instead of just having it already preset, it's like, okay, do you need any of this? And then we
Yeah,
have
your home's community
some
healing
options.
was,
We work a lot with some of our
yeah.
Who is
yeah,
this?
Your
Who is
home's
this
was,
talking?
that's community healing, Stephanie.
Oh,
And yeah, they're one of the homes that
there we
do
go.
that. And I saw that and I thought that was great.
We work a lot with some of our churches, so they do drives for us. That's one of the big things we always ask for is hygiene products because we know people are coming in without anything. So each house has a little bit of supply, and then like our main office has a supply, so we can restock when need or rotate out depending on what the need is. And for our women's houses, we work with the a nonprofit in Michigan that gives out free female hygiene products. So we have all those always there, so they don't have to worry about, do they have pads or tampons when they come in too. We always have those provided
Do
in that
you have a resource that you can put in the chat where you get that
house.
kind of stuff for other individuals that run
I'm
women's
sorry,
homes?
I cut out there for a second. I didn't hear what you said, Catherine.
Do you have information that you can put in the chat for that resource for women's
Yes.
hygiene products and stuff that, yeah, there's a lot of operators that run homes. That
Yeah,
would be
so
nice to see
I
that
think they're
resource.
I want to say out of Lansing, so they have every quarter they have so far they can go with delivering, but it's amazing. We use it for all of our programs. So I will grab that info and add it to
do you know the
chat.
name of it? Oh, she's looking
Yeah,
it up.
I think it is, but I have other info so I can send that in the chat for it because
Okay.
they're great. We've worked with them for maybe 2 years now.
Right.
It's just no one, that's one of those extra things people don't always have money for, and it's pretty expensive when you're coming in off the street.
Yep, exactly.
I
Another
have a
subject
question.
is how do you make it so the residents can kind of make the space their own. They're in this bed, they're going to be there sometimes, 6+ months, and what are things that can be done to help them make the space their own? Here's some ideas.
I know using cork boards can definitely help to make the place their own. It also definitely helps. It doesn't eliminate, but it definitely helps minimize the damage to your walls.
Yep.
I think that comes to my head because I opened up another location and I need to still get some more cork boards hung up. But yeah, that's when I figured that out, that was one of my biggest aha moments is, oh my goodness, this is the best $30 I've spent.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that we used to do on our intake packets is on the intake packets, we'd have our rules and regulations. And then underneath there, we had lessons learned, and they had to sign off on our lessons learned. And one of those where you cannot put nails in the walls. So they know that going in, you cannot put nails in the wall is one of our lessons learned. It's a rule. You cannot, you just can't do it. So, but you have a cork board, put all your stuff up on your cork board and keep your family's pictures up there. And the number of the elimination of the holes in the walls is amazing.
Big money saver.
Yeah, and you highlight that would be right before they sign the lessons learned. So you highlight the important things right underneath there. So they know not to do it. So that's just another idea that you could do to make sure that it's in the forefront of their mind.
Yeah, and maybe they'd have a special picture or something that they'd like hung up
Yep.
on the wall. Then something in the rules, if you have something in particular that's very special to you, please reach out and maybe your maintenance can actually put it up correctly.
Yep.
Because when people leave in the command strips, I went to a place the other day and there must have been at least 50 command strips all over the walls. And it's just like people are just kind of using the same ones. And when they were taking them down, they took them down wrong. They were taking off big patches of paint. And it's just like they don't always work either. So, yeah, so you want to think about that ahead of time because one way or another, they're going to make the space their own. And if you offer them a place to put their stuff in the beginning and have that in the rules, like Glennis and Preston was saying, it's going to save you time and money. Anyone else have anything about that subject?
I have a random thought.
Okay.
In any leasehold situation, there would be what's called a beginning and an ending inventory checklist.
Yeah.
We don't want to have any leases out there because we don't want to be subject to landlord-tenant law. But you could put into your resident agreement something that says the condition of the room is as follows, and then there'd be some listing of what the room is, that there are no, there's curtains on the windows and there's no holes in the thing. Have something in there that says they're going to have $100 security deposit to pay for any damages, and then take a picture of the place before they walk in, and then you take a picture of the place as they're leaving, and deduct from them the costs of repairing whatever it is that they've screwed up.
Yeah, except for so many of them walk out when we're not home or nobody's
Yeah.
there. They never come back. It's like,
Man.
yeah, that's
If
the
someone's leaving already, then they're gonna get
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I'm just saying it's
yeah,
probably not a bad idea to do it.
yeah, yeah.
My other random thought was I had a nephew that stayed at McMurdo Station down in Antarctica for a while. And they had a bunch of scientists like in a room for 6 months, but they had to do cleaning. And none of these people wanted to clean anything because they were all, university professor people that didn't want to have to clean. What they did down there was they had, like, every Friday at 5 o'clock or something like that, everybody would be doing the cleaning at that time. So they reserved an hour a week that everybody had to be in their little I don't know what it was, igloo, and they had to clean for that 1 hour, and that took care of the problem of people.
Yeah.
Oh, gee, I'll get to it tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's the end of my random thoughts. I'm now done for the day.
Yeah.
Another idea that I could throw out there is when it comes to what type of bed frames to use, I find that I find that Amazon has these all metal bed frames,
Yep.
which makes them a lot easier to keep clean, more sanitary, and also helps with bed bug mitigation.
Yep.
Don't
And
get wood.
yeah, Amazon has them for like $50, and they're not like cheap ones for kids. I mean, they're not cheap quality for kids. I mean, many of them are rated for 300, 500 pounds. And now, what the ones I get specifically say they're the 18-inch metal bed frames, which means that gives you plenty of room underneath the bed to use for cleanliness and for storage. And I've started to exclusively buy those. And anytime my other stuff breaks down, I throw that away. And I've been filling up all my houses with those type of bed frames. And
And
I
a
think
lot,
out of maybe 60 or 80 or however many I bought so far, I've only had 3 failures, which
yeah.
I think had to do with something else. I don't think they were using that bed frame for what it was meant for.
The other thing that's helpful is to buy those roll-out mattresses too that blow up when you put them. Those are really good, long-lasting mattresses, and they're not expensive. Um,
They can't get bed bugs in them because
well,
they're
not if you put a
blow
bed
up.
bug cover on. You should have a bed
Yeah,
bug cover on every bed. Every bed
yeah,
should have a bed bug cover,
that'll save
and
you.
and you have to. I mean, that is something that is so worth investing in is bed bug covers because it
Yes.
really does eliminate the bed bugs and they're not cheap, but at least they're twin beds. But it's well worth the money. Because an exterminator bed bug thing, it's outrageous.
You
Yeah, and
spoke
even
on
though
bed
those,
bugs, so I want to talk about the bed bug box. That is
Yeah.
an investment that I think every operator should have, and that's a preventative.
Yep.
So you can get a bed bug box. You can get them for as little as I think $350. They fold down. They have like a little heater attached to it. You can hold books and backpacks and shoes. I think it's got to be at least 117, 118 degrees for so many hours to kill the bed bugs and the eggs and stuff. That's a preventative to do that while you're doing the intake process and orientating them to the home. That way, when those belongings go to that room, you know that they're clean and safe from bed bugs. So some operators have like one central location where they actually new people come in and they go over their paperwork and stuff. And so that's where they usually have the bed bug box. Some operators have one in every home. But that's definitely something that will save you in the long run is doing preventative things like that. Anybody else have anything you want to share that's been helpful for that?
Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Who are you?
Uh, I'm Tara from Positive
Tara.
Images.
I
Sure.
do.
Yes. So, these are all good recommendations. I'm just wondering if there's a possibility of that each of you can share the link to these items that you're suggesting.
Like
Yeah,
the
because
bed
I was
bug
going to
box?
ask about that bed frame. Does that call for a box spring or just the mattress?
the metal bed frames, they have slats in them like every 8 inches, which means it does not require a bed frame. It's
Mhm.
just the mattress.
Which also
Okay.
saves money.
Correct. Now it does. Now the only bad part to that is that now you have your mattress with a bed cover on it sitting on slats, and that's more wear and tear. So it
He called
does.
last week at the Reese's Senior Bowl in Mobile. We're talking to him again. Damn.
Oh, okay.
Turn your volume off, please.
So the only bad part about it is because now that you have your mattress with the bed cover on it sitting on slats, it does preserve the mattress. I don't get excessive wear and tear on the mattress, but it is excessive wear and tear on the bed cover.
Mhm.
So you'll
The
find that
plastic.
the bottom of your bed covers will start to puncture quicker. But I still do it. I mean, it's a small con
Right.
for all the positive benefits to it all.
I wonder, Preston, if it would help if there was maybe not, if there was a wood slab laid down first. We think it
I
would still
probably
happen. It'd probably still happen.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've been teasing with is there's many times, especially with when people lay floors or underlayment, there's
yeah.
this felt padding, and I've been teasing with the idea of maybe using that
Okay.
to minimize the punctures.
Yeah.
I mean, some would go,
Because those covers aren't cheap. And
no, they're not. Yeah.
huh,
Yeah.
well, now that you mention that, I might have to ponder on that a little while.
Yeah.
Because the felt on top of the wood would be safe. And if you cut one for one, if you cut them for every bed, you never have to cut another one, right?
Yeah.
All you'd have to
Felt
do
is
is
pretty
all you'd
durable.
have to do is put the felt on top of it, right?
Mm.
Yep.
So yeah. Well, that's a good thing to think about. The other thing I think, just throwing out there, if we can, for a minute, clothing and items that people bring in. We have limited them to a certain amount because they end up shoving it under their beds, in the closet, in the basements, and then we have and we have a 10-day, well, no, it's not even 10 days. I think it's 72 hours to come get your stuff or we donate it, right? Because I can't tell you the amount of money that we've spent hauling stuff out that people have so we don't do it anymore. We allow them no more than 2 suitcases, no more than 2. We don't even like 2 because they accumulate things while they're there and quickly. I don't know how it happens, but quickly it accumulates. So we put a limit on 2 suitcases. And they can't bring in bags full of things. And if they bring them to the office, we will store them for 24 hours until somebody comes and picks it up for them. Because they're not taking it in the houses. And so that's something that each provider has to think about how they handle it. But Preston, I see you shaking your head. Yes. So how do you handle it?
No, I unfortunately, I'm more reactive. Every 3 months, I fill up my 8 foot wide by 16-foot trailer. And luckily enough, Grand Rapids has a place within 10 miles that I go to, and it's only $35. But I know that the people, my team members, actually run the houses more than I do.
Mhm.
If they see someone coming in with countless bags of belongings, they do tell them that you have to be able to only use half the bedroom and you have to be able to store it in a clean, organized fashion, or else you're going to have to find a way to downsize your belongings.
Yeah,
So
that never worked for us. So we started limiting the 2 suitcases
Yeah.
to the 2 suitcases. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd say bring a backpack with a week's worth of clothing, bring whatever you need to be comfortable on a twin size bed, and bring a week's worth of food.
Yeah.
You know, they'll go to Costco and they buy them all this bulk stuff and take up a whole refrigerator, right? And they're
Yeah.
sharing it with a few other people, and so they always come with a little bit more, but it's got to be able to. We weren't a storage unit. They had to
Well,
be able to fit in their room or comfortably under their bed or in their closet, without rolling into the floor. But yeah, you have to nip it in the bud. I've seen
yeah.
places that it's just packed to the hilt because they slowly start bringing stuff in for what if, I'm going to be moving out someday. I'm going to need this, I'm going to need that. And but I would recommend too, before you donate the stuff, always make sure you're reaching out to the emergency contact that the individual
Oh, yeah.
gives you.
Yeah.
And just say, you can't give them any details, but hey, I have so-and-so's belongings here and they're ready to be donated. Would you please come and pick these up? Because eventually they're going to wish that they had those things. So
Well, and you got to
hopefully operators are doing that.
I would have them sign something that they know that within a certain amount of time, the stuff is going to go because we have them sign something. Yeah. And then we do try to reach out, but they sign something because I'm not going to be caught with that little lawsuit. But so Preston, I think, I don't know about a lot of you, but I could not have afforded to pay $35 once a week or every other week to go haul people's junk out. I mean, I just couldn't afford to do that.
No, every 3 to 4 months.
Yeah,
every 3 or 4 months I go through that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's I try not to set myself up for that. But when people leave without you knowing it,
yeah,
and it's left behind in a corner of a basement,
yep.
It's just I'm stuck with it. But of course, I'm saying every 3 or 4 months I'm spending $35. But I do have 12 locations, 120 beds. So it's a very small cost for the size of my organization.
So you drive a vehicle around and pick up at 120 different spots to
No,
collect?
12 locations.
Oh, 12 locations. Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, one day, $35, 3 or 4 times a year. It's small for the size of my operation.
I like Catherine's idea. Come with a week's worth of clothes, a week's worth of groceries, and
Not everyone has them to do
Well, that
that.
way you're limiting it, you know, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
Yeah.
just plan on buying groceries every week. You can't
yeah,
buy groceries for 2 months and think you're gonna have space for it, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
And I know one of my team members, many times with the women, she communicates in a way, she says, bring your wardrobe for that season. And then when that season changes, you just change out your wardrobe because people aren't wearing summer clothes in winter or winter clothes in summer. So you don't need to store that in the house.
And I
and
really,
nothing should go in the basement either unless it's in an appropriate plastic tub labeled with their name on it and the date they put it down there. You're just going to get all this stuff in the basement. Eventually, you're not going to know whose stuff belongs to who, and that way you can, you know what stuff you got to go through and get rid of eventually.
um, we only got like 9 minutes left. So I'm wondering if anybody has any thoughts
Subjects.
on any of the topics that you would like to hear. Any comments on this session, and was it helpful, and what more would you like to hear, and what other topics would we like to have for this session when we have them? Was
We're
this
going to be
helpful?
every month, once a month
I
after
have
the
a
operator
question.
meeting.
Yes.
I have a question. It's Shelley again. I have my camera off but I'd like to know what you guys do about food storage because the guys, they seem to bicker over food being stolen. And I do have lockers, so the guys have started putting their food in locker and locking it up, but then also the food being stolen from the refrigerator and then also the storage, like you said, is I mean the best question or the best topic that was brought up was how much how many things do you bring? I have a problem with the guys bringing way too much stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no room for this stuff. You have to downsize somehow. And a couple of my guys have bikes, so of course they can take their bike to the basement and use it whenever they need to. But the food storage and the food theft seems to be the biggest problem that I have.
That's not uncommon. I mean, that's not uncommon. For me, I used to just pull them into groups and say, look,
Yeah.
you're grown men. Quit stealing each other's food. And you know what? They're going to work that out. They're going to work. If they come to you, I mean, everybody has to have something to complain about. Think about it. I did when I was in recovery housing. I had to have something to complain about. You know what I mean? It's like that's who we
Right.
are. So they need to work it out themselves, and they will work it out. I mean, you may have one person in there that's taking the food, and they'll weed their own selves out. I mean, it's trial and error, and that's going to happen. Those are the things. And generally it's worse with women than it is with men. So I'm surprised that you're having that problem with men, honestly.
One thing we found helpful is
the shoe
labeling.
problem is worse for men than it is for women, which is surprising to some people. But
Well, this is one of the problems that I have. Like you said, what should we provide? Some of the guys have money and some of the guys don't. When they come and they're new, there isn't much food. So I'll have the guys telling me, well, what's this? I can't afford to feed him and whatnot. And so of course I bring and stock the cabinets with random things that I've left over and ramen and stuff like that. But it hasn't seemed to end that problem yet. And I feel bad for the guys that come and they're new and they don't have much money. So of course we're going to try to help them out in the beginning. And I don't think they're the ones that steal the food. I think it's, someone that's been there a little longer. But, right now I'm getting a camera installed in the hall. I didn't have a
Right,
camera
there you go.
before.
Yep.
So that'll help.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to suggest. We have cameras. I mean,
Labeling the food as well. That was a requirement that I had in the recovery home is if you have whatever food you have in the cupboard or fridge, you need to put your name on it. There's more than one person that's going to have Dr. Pepper, or a can of corn, so we know who's, or an individual shelving belongs to an individual resident. One resident has the middle shelf, maybe got like tape with their name on it.
I like that idea. That's a great idea. I'm going to implement that. I'll get them some tape and a marker, and because currently they know things that I donate. They know I specified this is a shelf. This was donated.
Yep,
This is
yep,
food for everyone. Right.
yep, exactly. Yep. And sometimes we get people in that were totally indigent. And myself or my late husband would take them to the store and they'd get ramen noodles, they'd get peanut butter and jelly and bread, and they got eggs or butter. No, they didn't get eggs. They got cereal and milk. And they got lunch meat. They got stuff so they can make their meals when they leave to go out on job search and come back. If they want steak and all the fancy stuff, they can do that when they get their own job. But in the meantime, we would spend up to $50. We went with them to make sure they got the basics and they weren't going hungry.
If you have food banks there and you're near you too, that's another good place to grab some foods and
some banks are only allow somebody there once a month, and they don't allow that much. So it depends on what location you're at.
Yeah.
I had a resident, he solved people were drinking his milk and stuff. So he wrote right on there that he spit in it, and and he took a permanent marker and he put a line where the milk was, but nobody wanted to touch it. He didn't have an issue after that because people thought he was spitting on his food.
Nice.
I like this comment on here where Stephanie put, I'm always surprised when curtains go missing.
Yeah.
You know what else is shocking? Have you ever noticed how the spoons and the forks in the house come up missing? Like, what are they doing with these? Like, are they just throwing them in the trash can when they're scraping their plate? I don't.
Probably leaving with food in their hand and they're like eating it on the way to the bus or something.
Oh my God, I just don't understand it. It's crazy. It's just
But
crazy.
if you have,
we actually
all
had
the
someone
other
go through
silverware,
court and we had someone going through court and it set off the metal detector, and she had a fork in her purse and she's like, oh, I was eating on the way out and I just stuck it in there. Well, then they confiscated it and didn't give it back, so then we were down a fork.
I know, crazy.
But we go to Goodwill a lot and get our forks because they're pretty inexpensive and we can just get whatever ones we need for whichever place we're at that time.
Perfect.
I mean, we just have to laugh at some of this stuff, but
if your home's missing spoons all the time, you might want to do some dropping of individuals too, because maybe they're using them for crack.
Oh, though, here's a funny story for you, because I'm an addict, right? I've done everything. I've shot dope, I've smoked dope, I've done it all, right? And my kid he was 14 at the time, and he had his friends over, and they're in the living room playing a game, and I pull out this spoon and it's all bent. And I'm like, what is this? Like, what is this? And they're all looking at me like, what is this spoon? How come it's bent? And they're looking at me like I'm crazy because I'm out of my mind. And my son goes, I don't know, that hard ass ice cream in the freezer, maybe, because we did get some ice cream. I thought, oh God. See, we always think the worst because that's who we were and that's who we are. And sometimes we're wrong. You know what I mean? Just sometimes we're wrong because that's where we come from. But yeah, I have to watch myself sometimes because they could be very innocent. And I could be accusing them of anything.
I've bent plenty of spoons from ice cream, just saying.
Yes.
That is a very common thing. Somebody ate my ice cream, somebody ate my candy bar. But again, labeling, making it a rule, was your name on it. So if you see Joe eat Matt's candy bar because his name's on it, then hey, you're stealing. Then that's another rule. No stealing allowed. Or you're exited immediately, that kind of stuff, so
Kim
there's
has
got to be accountability.
Kim has on here, isn't stealing zero tolerance? Yeah, it is, but you never know who's really doing the stealing, but the cameras will help. I do suggest that you put a sign up saying you're on camera, so that the clients all know that they're on camera.
Yeah.
But
also, if you have a large home, you got 2 refrigerators or more, you put their names. You can get like this magnet from the dollar store, and you can put dry erase marker the names of the people that are supposed to be in this refrigerator, and these are the names of the people that are supposed to be in that refrigerator. So if you see somebody in somebody else's refrigerator, I mean, so that's another thing to help. Doesn't
I
always
like
work,
that.
but it's just another tool.
Mhm.
So this is great, guys. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Was this
Yes.
helpful to have this kind of conversation, dig a
Give
little
us-
deeper?
Yeah, give us a little idea real quick. Raise your hand if this was helpful.
Quick a little hand raise.
Yeah.
Good.
You guys,
Okay, good. I'm seeing yeses. Yay, people. Me
And
too. It was helpful for me. I had fun.
And if you haven't put in anything in the chat, send an email to myself or Kayla or Glennis, one of us, and with some other ideas and topics that you'd like to talk about. So this meeting will dig a little bit deeper, and it's mentoring as well as sharing things that you've learned to help you over time.
every
So,
single post-meeting follow-up email that I send to after these meetings has a link to basically submit any topics, submit any feedback, that kind of
Good.
thing.
Please
There's a
do
survey
that.
link in every single post-meeting follow-up email I send. So you can add all of that stuff in there, or yes, feel free to email us too.
Oh, that's great.
thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
See you next
Bye.
month.
Bye.
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 Thank you.